My message about golf is about recreational participation. It's about family, it's about fitness, it's about fun, and it's about fast. If we can get those four elements going, we can revitalize the game.
What's up, golfers everywhere? Welcome back to episode 21 of the Pace of Change Golf podcast, where we're broadcasting the evolution of golf in the 21st century. I'm Scott Dolly, your co-host. Thank you for tuning in, and if you like what you're hearing, do us a favor. Subscribe, like, and share our podcast with everybody you know. Remember, you can access the show notes from this and every other episode at our website, paceofchange.com. And hey, while you're there, if you haven't already, sign up for our newsletter. Through that, we'll keep you updated on the latest news, announcements, product reviews, and upcoming show guests. Our guest today, I'm so excited to have Rob O'Loughlin on the podcast. He's played a major role in revolutionizing the way we play golf, and I don't take that word lightly. And here's the deal, he's not only done it once, he's done it twice. And as you're about to discover, he's not finished yet. So who is Rob O'Loughlin? Well, you may have heard of the company he used to run. It's called Softspikes. Yes, the makers of the plastic cleats that go on the bottom of nearly every golf shoe made for the last 20 years. Right now, he's the owner of LaserLink Golf, the original makers of the handheld laser rangefinders. Much like our former guest, Bret Blakely of OnCoreGolf, Rob endured a 5-year battle with golf's governing bodies to even allow the use of rangefinders for amateur and recreational play. And we're going to get into Rob's history, we'll get into those two companies, the way he revolutionized the game and how all that played out. Then we'll take a look at the future from his perspective and some of the new innovative products that he is bringing to market through his new company called Golf Solutions. Are you ready? We do it fast, we make it fun, so turn it up and enjoy episode 21 with the former owner of Softspikes, current owner of LaserLink Golf, Rob O'Loughlin. Hey guys, this episode of the Pace of Change Golf podcast is brought to you by Taylor Brands. It's 2016 and it's never been easier to start a business, sell a product, or offer a service. But oftentimes the first step in the process, designing a high quality logo and brand, keeps many would-be entrepreneurs from moving forward. But what if you could design anything you need in less than 30 seconds at an affordable cost? Does it sound impossible? With Taylor Brands' online platform, you can. At taylorbrands.com, you can build custom logos, presentations, or even entire brands with ease. No hidden tricks, no pre-made logos. I've personally used their platforms a couple times now, and just about every other online logo design website you can find in the past. Without a doubt, Taylor Brands' logo building process is the easiest, fastest, and highest quality product I've ever tested. Now, I could easily spend hundreds of dollars on other crowdsourcing design sites, and unfortunately, I have. But don't make the same mistake. Try it for free today. You can go through the entire process and then decide if you want to make the purchase. And as a special offer to our listeners, purchase the professional bundle and receive a free social profile banner upgrade. Guys, that's a $25 value. Use the promo code PACEOFCHANGE at checkout. Well, listen, Rob, I want to get right into the huge success story that I've read about, that I see. But where I want to get started is Rob O'Loughlin growing up. When is your first experience with golf? And just recounting that experience, and let's kind of go from there.
Well, unlike most people who are addicted to golf, I didn't play as a kid. My parents, although I grew up in West Texas, my parents, neither one of them played golf, and none of my brothers and sisters played golf. So I got to be, I got to be 18 years old and off to college before I ever had any exposure to golf. Then when I got into my late 20s in business, there were some, the scrambles and the different outings and stuff. And so I fooled around with the game a little bit at that point. My father-in-law was an avid golfer, and he kind of got me energized about it when I was in my 20s. So now at about that time, late 20s until the age I'm at now, which is 64, over the next 35 years, I played 4,000 rounds of golf.
Oh my gosh!
Which is puts me in kind of a rare category of 4,000 plus club.
You made up for the time that you weren't playing as a kid.
I certainly did.
How low did you get your handicap?
The lowest I ever got was 6.
Nice.
I currently, I'm around 8 or 9.
Nice.
Index is 7.6. And, but if I was your partner, you might prefer me to have 10 or 11 shots.
So did you grow up, were you born and raised in the Madison area?
No, I'm from, I was born and raised in Lubbock, Texas. And,
Yes.
You're
a Texan.
I'm a Texan, the home of Texas Tech, and I went off to college when I was 17 years old in Colorado, and honestly haven't been back that much to Texas since then. But I was my early years were in Texas, and I've actually been in Wisconsin now for almost 40 years. So
so Texas Tech is right there in town. I'm sure that was there a little bit of pull from the parents to go there or friends or anything like that? I mean, why did you decide to go to Colorado instead of going to Tech?
Well, there was my brothers and sisters. I had several of them that went to Texas Tech, but I found myself at Regis College, which is a small private school, Jesuit school in Denver, and so it was nice to, when you're 17 years old, it's a pretty good thing to get away. So I enjoyed it, and it's a wonderful town. Denver was different in the late 60s and early 70s when I was there than the size of city it is now. It's changed dramatically.
And then what did you go to college to study, or what was your intention there? What did you want to learn? Were you preparing for a career, or what was going on in your university days?
It's funny. I have a degree in Bachelor of Science in economics, but I went there thinking about business and thinking about being some kind of a business person. The one thing I was sure I didn't want to do was I didn't want to be a salesman. Okay. Mm-hmm. And as it turns out, it's the one simple thing that I'm qualified and good at. And so it was funny because the notion people have about sales is that's that guy that that now sells life insurance that you went to college with, and he keeps calling you and you keep avoiding him. Yeah. And so I didn't have the best attitude about sales and the sales function. What I learned a little later in my business career is that I'm good at sales and I like it, and it is in fact helping people. It's not really an oppressive thing. If you do it right, it's a very rewarding career. So I'm a salesman.
And I guess being passionate about whatever you're selling is probably a huge part of it. You have to believe in what you're selling.
No question about it. If you don't believe, no one else will. And the passion is part of it. The enthusiasm is contagious. And when people, the best salesmen, really do have a clear passion, and they really do believe. I don't think if you don't believe in your product, I don't think you can be very successful at it.
And then did you have your first kind of job opportunity pop up right after college, or how did that transition go down?
Well, interestingly enough, 2 weeks after I graduated from college in 1973, I had a job, and the job was a sales and marketing position, entry level, with Oscar Mayer. Oscar Mayer, the hot dog company. And so they hired me, and they moved me to Chicago, where I had never been to Chicago in my life. My wife is from Wisconsin, so I knew a little bit about the Midwest, but I found myself in Chicago, downtown Chicago, working for Oscar Mayer in 1973, and it was a great experience because they are at that time, it was a family-owned business, and they ran it particularly well, and it was great training, particularly sales training in the selling in the hot dog business. I told my kids that I was that I used to drive the Wienermobile, but that really wasn't true. So
that is awesome. Okay, I'm still just kind of reeling from. I go to college so that I can specifically not be in sales, and 2 weeks after I graduate, I take a sales job. I mean. What?
Now, I had at that point in time, I had a wife and a daughter, and that's known as any port in a storm. So although it may not have been my dream job to be in sales and marketing, I got hired, so I was thrilled to have the job.
Yeah. What did you think about Chicago? I mean, I was just in Chicago. I've been there a few times in my life, but I was there over New Year's, and I love the city. I absolutely love Chicago.
There's a lot of great things now. Now, the last 35 or 40 years, I've lived just 110 miles north of Chicago, and so there's so many great things that you can do down in and around Chicago. It's not my favorite city of all time, but because it's busy and it's got its issues. But it was a great experience when I was 21 years old to move to Chicago and to kind of learn your way around. So
okay, all right. So you're working at Oscar Mayer, and you're in your 20s in Chicago. You're married. You've got kids, and this is where golf comes into play. Now, in your 20s, you start playing with your father-in-law, and you're kind of getting into the game. You've got some acumen at it. You're getting pretty good. What's the next life transition look like?
The next one comes, I worked for Oscar Mayer for 5 years, and then I get an opportunity to buy a business. Now, at this point, I'm 26 years old, and I'm in Chicago, and I find out a business that's for sale in Madison, Wisconsin. And it's a guy who is in the tuxedo rental business, and he's in his mid to late 70s, and he and his wife had started this tuxedo rental business in Wisconsin, and he was ready to retire and looking for somebody to sell the business to. So I bought the business from him, borrowed the money from him to buy the business, and over the next 10 years we grew the business, and it turned out to be a very lucky, nice thing. The tuxedo rental business is a terrific. The business model is very good.
It's consistent, isn't it?
Well, it's weddings and it's proms and it's occasions, and those things are they're there every year. And it also we used to say, you sell in the rental business, you sell your inventory on Friday and get it back on Monday. So that's not all bad.
Yeah, it's amazing. At 26, you buy your business. You're finally kind of home where your wife is from, right? Is she from Madison then?
She's actually from Janesville, Wisconsin, which is a small town just south of Madison. So,
okay.
Yeah.
But was that to kind of be close to her family or close to family? Or
Absolutely. An opportunity to get back to Wisconsin. We were, and as it turns out, Wisconsin's a wonderful place to raise your kids, and it's a great lifestyle. For 7 or 8 months out of the year, it's just ideal weather-wise, and then you have to run off to Florida for 3 or 4 months of the year.
What I've noticed about I don't it's Wisconsin, but I think it's Madison as well. There's a lot of city pride. There's a lot of like state pride. So I get Texans. Look, as Texans, we have that that Texas pride. But I've noticed that about Madison because, like you said, it's a town of, 250, 300,000 people.
Right.
And yet there seems to be so much coming out of there. There's another interesting place that's kind of popping up like that it's in Buffalo, New York.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they're really kind of doing the same thing there, where they're trying to, in a sense, market themselves as another business hub in upstate New York. And so it's kind of working. But Bret Blakely, who was on the podcast, he heads up. He's the co-founder of OnCoreGolf, where they create the golf ball with the metal core, hollow metal core on the inside. Mm-hmm. He's from Buffalo, but he said, yeah, their efforts there, like their Chamber of Commerce efforts, and just trying to get commerce to come through Buffalo has been very successful, and it's kind of a hot new place to start a business. So,
well, Madison has got, first off, we've got several large insurance companies, which are wonderful, clean businesses. We have the state capitol and the University of Wisconsin. And the university, of course, produces great new biotech technologies and high-tech technologies. So it really is it's not a blue-collar town. We don't have a lot of industry. Matter of fact, we almost have nothing heavy industry like Milwaukee or Cleveland, those kind of towns have.
Yeah.
And it is a really good place to live. I think we've won that best city in America to live in a couple of times.
Let's move into the kind of the opportunity that of a lifetime, maybe is what you could call it. But how did you come across Softspikes?
Well, here's what happened. I'm renting tuxedos, which is a highly seasonal business. It's all April to October, which is kind of nice because that leaves November through March to get away and go to Florida or California or Arizona and play golf.
Yeah.
And so the business was going well, but being highly seasonal, we did kind of escape in the off season. And so I found myself in Florida, belonged to a private club there called Jupiter Hills, and started to play there regularly. And then over time, I migrated to California during that period, Palm Springs mostly, and played a lot of golf out there. And so I was in a rhythm of working 8 months out of the year and then playing a lot of golf for 3 or 4 months out of the year. So it was a great spot to be. In 1993, I got a phone call, or I took a trip to Muirfield Village in Dublin, Ohio, which I'm a member of, or I was at the time. And so I go over there 2 or 3 times this summer and play golf. And we arrived one day, and the guy who was in charge of the locker room said, "Everybody, give me your shoes. We're going to put these plastic cleats on." And we said, "No, that we're okay. We don't need them. We've got our metal spikes." And he said, "No, I didn't ask you. I told you Mr. Nicholas says everyone will wear these plastic cleats until further notice." So we said, "Oh, okay." So we didn't have a choice. They gave us no choice, and we took it. So we played golf for 3 days, and I found them to be interesting. I didn't think it was the best thing since sliced bread, but there was no issues with them. It was kind of like playing in tennis shoes, and I said, "Oh, this is an interesting idea."
Yeah.
So I get back to Madison, Wisconsin, and I pick up the phone, and I called the company that was making them, and it was Softspikes, and they were out in Rockville, Maryland. And the kid that answered the phone, he said to me, I said, "Look, I'd like to get some of those cleats because I belong to a couple of 2 or 3 private clubs, and it's an interesting idea for the greens to be smoother and all that kind of stuff. So I'd like to get my hands on a few sets of cleats." And he said, "Well, I can't sell you." And I said, "Yeah, well, I'll buy them. I'm not looking for freebies. I just give me some and I'll help you." And he said, "Well, I can't. If you're not a golf course, I'm under strict orders from my boss that I can't sell you." And I said, "Well, that's outrageous. You don't understand. I'm trying to help you." And he said, I'm just doing what I'm told. And I said, well, give me your boss's name. So now I'm kind of annoyed.
We're going to get to the bottom of this, yeah.
Yeah, so I called the guy and I said to him, look, I'm trying to help. I think you've got an interesting idea. I'm in and around golf. I belong to these different private clubs, and I could help you. And he said, you know how you could help me? He said, you could help me by buying part of my company. So now I'm thinking, I wish I'd never called because I didn't. But anyway, make a long story short, I took a trip out to Washington, D.C., Rockville, Maryland, where these two guys who at the time were just about 20 years older than me. So these guys are in their 60s, and they both love golf, and they have the patent or the rights to buy the patent for the plastic cleat Softspikes. And they had registered the name. It was a no sales, no earnings company. And so they said, we need a partner. So we stepped up, and we ended up buying a third. So we became three equal partners, me and these two guys. And from 1993 to 2000, we went from having no accounts to having 10,000 golf courses as accounts. Originally, we sold the product direct to golf courses. There was no Dick's Sporting Goods or Sports Authority or any kind of retail. We simply sold upscale private clubs, and they changed the cleats out at the golf course.
So yeah, right around 1995, I'm going to say, I was, my dad was a member at one of those private clubs that instituted the Softspikes. It's called Lochinvar Golf Club. It's in North Houston. Butch Harmon used to teach there, and Tiger Woods was coming out till about 97. But I distinctly remember going out there and having my Softspike, for the first time ever, having the hard metal spikes taken out and having Softspikes put in, because that was going to be the new rule at the club at Lochinvar. And that's just a memory I'll never forget. But going out and playing the Softspikes, and it was one of the only places in town where that was mandatory and required. Of course, it wasn't long after that. I mean, next couple of years, they just started falling like flies, and everybody was doing it.
If we had written the business plan that we were going to try to get 500 upscale private clubs like Lochinvar to ban metal spikes, I think the Harvard Business School would laugh you out the door. I mean, it just was impossible. And it wasn't our plan. Our plan was for people to use them and to have better greens. And then golf committees got a look at it and said, hey, look, it's really good for everybody to wear these. And they kind of took it. So our product was not mandated, but the alternative, the metal spike, was in fact banned. And so banning we started getting letters from clubs like Lochinvar and Preston Trails and great clubs like all around the country, and they are writing to their membership saying we no longer are going to allow metal spikes.
So they took the initiative and banned it. That wasn't something you suggested as a sales strategy.
Well, we sure didn't discourage it.
Exactly.
Once we saw the trend, it was kind of it took on a life of its own. We probably we talk about 10,000 clubs that we got, but here's what happened: or courses. We got 500 to do it, and then 9,500 followed them. Yeah. So it really wasn't like we sold them all. We used to collect the letters from the golf committee, and there were just stacks of them from great clubs like Wingfoot and Riviera and Baltusrol. And the more powerful the club, the more we circulated it. So everybody wants to be like Wingfoot or Riviera or Baltusrol. And so the Me Too business kind of took over. And my brother, who actually lived in Amarillo, Texas, called me one day, and he'd gone into a shop and tried to buy some Softspikes, and the guy said, oh, well, you must be playing at a really good place because all the really good places require them. So we got this good guy kind of momentum and at the top places. I should give credit to a dear friend of mine who's worked for me the last 20 years, and that is Walker Inman. Walker Inman was the head pro at Scioto Golf Club in Columbus, Ohio, and for 30 years. And prior to him, the previous 25 years before that, Jack Grout was
my goodness.
Jack Nicklaus's teacher.
Yes.
Jack Grout was there. So over about almost 60-year period, there were only two golf pros at Scioto, Jack Grout and Walker Inman. But Walker was host of the Ohio State Amateur in the summer of '93, and he so believed in Softspikes, he just thought it was a wonderful idea. He was ahead of his time. A lot of golf pros did not buy into it in the first stages.
Surprise, surprise, yeah.
Yeah, really. Walker got it, thought it was fantastic, and as these kids, young men were arriving to play in the Ohio State Amateur, he would shake hands with them in the parking lot and said, hey, this whole week we're going to wear these Softspikes. Can you imagine?
Oh, my goodness.
And they had no choice, but the logic went this way. The members of Scioto have decided not to allow metal spikes on our course. Now, you guys are guests here, so if the members don't allow it, then we don't allow our guests to do it, so that's the way it is.
Yeah.
Well, a young guy shot whatever it was, 282 or something, to win the state amateur, and it happened to be the same score that Dale Douglas had shot in the U.S. Senior Open a year before. And when they asked him about the plastic cleats, and this is in the Golf Digest, or maybe it was in Golf Week, one of the publications,
Sure.
He said, I didn't know that, I thought that was that great an idea, but I got to tell you, I made every 6-footer that I faced this week, and that's why I won. So he felt that the smoother greens had helped him out, and so.
You know, I'm almost too young to have vivid memories of just what spikes used to do to the greens. Just all the holes, you know, all the little punch holes that would go into the ground. But I kind of have visual memories of like how crazy that could get at the end of the day, when everybody used to be out there with spikes. I mean, such an ingenious idea. My question is, what did your partners lack that you brought in to get those 500 accounts signed up? I mean, was it just simply they didn't have the sales experience, and is that really what you felt like you were going to be bringing to the table?
Well, I'm not so sure it was all about me. Sometimes there's an accident of timing, and there's always unintended consequences in every deal. Mm-hmm. Here's what I think was a driving force.
Yeah.
Riviera in Los Angeles hosted the PGA Championship that summer. Okay, it was won by oh my gosh, I can't think of his name. The Australian. It'll come to me.
Yeah.
Anyway, the PGA Championship, they had terrible problem with the greens that year. Riviera in the early 90s had gone through some changes. They, instead of planting, they redid all the greens, and it didn't work. And the result was that when you walked on them with metal spikes, they got horrendous spike marks. Oh. They looked like little Christmas trees. And a seminal moment in the soft spike business was CBS had what they called the Wormcam. And one of the CBS announcers put the camera down first thing in the morning before any players had walked across the green and showed what a smooth surface looked like. And then they went back and put the camera down, this Wormcam, at ground level after 120 players had walked through there. And it looked like a minefield. It was such a powerful, powerful message. Now, the truth was they had a unique problem with the greens at Riviera. But to see that on national television, it looked patently unfair. It looked like nobody could get – they looked like little Christmas trees that you were trying to go over.
Oh, my gosh.
So that was a huge issue. And that got a lot of publication. Muirfield Village, where I first found the product, it was never, and Jack Nicklaus told me this, it was never his intention to ban metal spikes. It was simply a stopgap for that summer when they had a problem with the greens.
Oh,
and
my
so
goodness.
he said, we're just going to do this temporarily. But the word spread around that Muirfield Village, one of the great golf courses in the world, has banned metal spikes. And I got a call from one of the guys who was with, was actually Dave Seener, who was the editor of Golf Week at the time. And he called me up and he said, you've been telling people that they have banned metal spikes at Muirfield. And I said, no, I didn't tell them, but that's what the story kept coming out. And forever, it was like, never again will there be a metal spike. Although it wasn't true, there never had metal spikes back there. And that's 23 years later, they still never let them back in.
So you got to meet Jack Nicklaus, and you had kind of had to tell him that, like, hey, I didn't tell people that you were banning it.
No, I actually, Mr. Nicklaus is one of the shareholders in LaserLink Golf, which is the next company after Softspikes, and he's been very, very nice to me, as is Arnold Palmer, and both of them. And I think coming off what had happened in Softspikes, they were open to get involved in helping me with LaserLink, which was another company or the next company I did after Softspikes.
Yeah, I mean, you have this huge success, and it sounds like serendipity played a role in Softspikes, but no doubt, you were a huge part of that in helping it grow. So you kind of ride that wave. How long were you intimately involved in Softspikes, and then what happened for you to say, you know what, I think this has been amazing, but I think it's time to move on?
Well, I was the original president and CEO of Softspikes, and we were a no sales, no earnings company. And then 7 years later, we had big sales and big earnings. And at that point in time, the phone started to ring, and ambitious entrepreneurs were calling us up saying, I've got the next Softspikes. Yeah. I've got the next greatest idea. Yeah. And so we found that at that point in time, we had hired a very capable manager to run the business. And I was just we were all just sitting back and enjoying ourselves. And but we found that management was spending a lot of time entertaining the next deal. And so we had a little meeting and said, look, I'm going to look at all the opportunities that come in. And I told my two partners, and I promise you, we will do none of them. I just will, they have the next best putter. They've got the next driver. We've got all these great innovations. But I will take care of looking into them, and I will do none of them. But as happens, a guy in Minneapolis, Minnesota, called me one day, and he said, "Look, you guys have shown some interest in GPS, which we had. We looked at a GPS operation in Vancouver, and as an acquisition, and so we looked at them and decided not to do it. But this guy called me up, and he said the right way to measure golf shots is not GPS; it's laser." Point-to-point laser. And so anyway, he was the guy. He had a company that was struggling, but his concept was good. And that was a handheld laser rangefinder with as a sender and a receiver being a highly reflective prism target. And so we acquired that company. Softspikes bought that company and changed the name to LaserLink Golf. And we're just getting going on it when along came the private equity people, and they bought Softspikes. But they were interested only in a multiple of EBITDA. They were interested only in the economics of the business, and the laser rangefinder sector was a no sales, no earnings. So I asked my partners and asked the buyer, the private equity group, if I could take that with me. And they said, sure, because it represented no value in the sale. So I took that and a handful of the better employees from Softspikes with me, and we moved it to Madison, Wisconsin, which is where I live. Instead of flying back and forth like I did for 5 or 6 or 7 years to Rockville, Maryland, we moved it to Wisconsin.
Oh, that's so amazing. And then your partners in Softspikes, when you guys sold off the business, were they just kind of said, "Hey, we're happy, we're done," and
Yep.
they were happy for you to move on to whatever it is that you wanted to do?
Absolutely. Two wonderful guys. As I mentioned before, they're both in their 80s now, and they were in their 60s then,
Yeah.
and they were fine to go play golf, and
Yeah.
And they felt good about what we did. We made a contribution
To the game of golf.
Yeah, we really did.
You did.
And I don't mean to brag, but
No.
if the golf community went back to metal spikes for a weekend, they would build a monument to Softspikes because people don't even remember
They don't.
how bad it was. So,
how long could you guys keep track of how many Softspikes you had sold before the number was just too big?
well, we sold 1 billion plastic cleats when I was the CEO of the company, and my understanding is they've sold more than another billion since we left, which was 15 years ago or 14 years ago when we sold it to them. So it's well over 2 billion plastic cleats, and it's a good, steady business. They wear out. There has been a change in the footwear business where a lot of these, these spikeless shoes are coming back. I'm not a huge fan of them. It's not my fight anymore, but I think the plastic cleats that we developed, like the Black Widow, and had kind of moving parts, added significantly more traction and feel than the ones that are out there now that are just the nubbies or the spikeless shoes. But one thing for sure, the metal spikes are gone forever and they're not coming back.
Hey there, everybody. This episode is also brought to you by another awesome, forward-leaning, innovative golf venture called Rival and Revel. We all look forward to that next round of golf, a trip with old friends, or a rare moment of pursuing our passions late in the evening, the sun's going down. Their goal is to make this valuable leisure time even more enjoyable, efficient, and relaxing, offering a variety of branded golf accessories, club head tech covers, and the one and only Silo Golf Club carrier. This product is a game changer in the golf industry, and it may just be a game changer for you too. If you don't know what the Silo is, press stop. Head over to their website, rivalandrevel.com, and check it out. Whether you are the super competitive player or the one that just celebrates being out there, Rival and Revel's mission is to help you make the most of it. Now, they've got a special discount just for our listeners. Use the code PACEOFCHANGE at checkout to receive 10% off your entire order. All right, so you move LaserLink to Madison, is this right? That's what you just said. Okay, so you move it to Madison. This is another no sales, no rev company, and you're like, all right, I'll jump on that train too. Now, how do you go from that to making that a success? What was your strategy there, and how did that end up playing out?
Well, we had a great deal of equity with private clubs.
Yes.
We were given credit for being way smarter than we were on the soft spike thing, and superintendents loved us because we had changed that metal spike out. Owners of golf course loved us because they no longer had carpeting and bar stools and furniture that people were putting their metal spikes were ripping up.
Yes.
I got a call at one point in time from a friend who was an executive with Club Car out of Ingersoll Rand, owns Club Car, which is a great easygoing club car, the two best guys in that motorized cart business. And they were thrilled because when the metal spike went away, everybody puts their feet up on the dashboard and ruins the carts. Everybody wore out the brake and the gas pedal with those metal spikes. So we had a lot of equity with the golf community, and so we then went back to them and said, we got another good idea, and that is instead of marking all those sprinkler heads and measuring all that, how about you measure the distance from where you're standing to the flagstick in 3 seconds instead of 30 seconds of hunting for sprinkler heads and walking off and opening up a book. And a lot of the great clubs bought into it early. We were involved with some of the really top clubs in the country, and they got it. We had one little problem. The problem was the United States Golf Association and the Royal and Ancient had this rule 14-3B, which has to do with artificial devices to help play the game, or that we believe help, but they were not allowed. So they did not allow the use of laser rangefinders for handicap purposes or for any kind of competition. So you talk about uphill and against the wind. Here we are trying to sell a concept that's against the rules. And so that embarked on a 5-year fight that involved me going back and forth to Fife, Scotland. I built an interesting relationship with Peter Dawson, who was the RNA's secretary from about probably about 98 through last year when he finally retired.
Yeah.
Great thing for everybody when he retired. Actually, I have a lot of respect for Peter. He's a good guy. He's knowledgeable. He was a little hard-headed about electronic measuring devices because all they did was speed up the game and provide the same information you could have gotten by walking it off, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And back then, I remember GPS was around, but it wasn't nearly as accurate, obviously, as it is today. Now it's within a foot or two, but back then I don't think it was that accurate. So and also it was very expensive, right? You're sending satellites up in the late 90s, and that wasn't the most economical way to do it as well. So but I didn't know that this gentleman that you bought it from, he was the one that patented and invented the yardage devices with the laser.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he did, and he was in it before Bushnell was in it.
Yeah, I'm wondering how did Bushnell get on the scene then?
Well, Bushnell, which is they're a wonderful company, and they're $1 billion, I believe, in sales now. Yeah. They've been acquired a couple of times, but Bushnell was a hunting company, and they had a hunting device, which was a laser rangefinder for scoping out. I'm not a hunter, but you could see deer or antelopes or whatever your prey was at long distances, and so they had pioneered this.
Okay.
And so they were in the business, and all they discovered was, because they're not a golf company and they don't have a lot of golfers involved, but what they did discover was that their hunting device could be and was being used by some golfers to determine how far they were to the flagstick.
Yeah.
So they luckily moved into it. Now we were working our little fingers to the bone to try to get the rule changed, but they didn't even bother. They didn't. They just said, "Hey, if people buy them and use them for golf, they also use them for hunting," and their business really started to grow as. Partially because of our efforts, because we were out promoting the idea of faster play and more accurate yardages.
Yeah, so in a sense, the competition was there, which Softspikes, did Softspikes ever have any real competition? I think I remember at some point there was some other company out there that was.
Yeah, there was. It was called Mcneal Engineering, and he's a friend of mine now, Harris Mcneal, a good guy. And Mcneal Engineering out of the Massachusetts, they had 95% of all the metal spike business in the world. They made metal spikes. They had great contracts with companies like Nike and footwear cleats for football, for track. They did all kinds of that kind of stuff. And so they then they saw the trend toward plastic cleats, and they jumped in. A lot of people thought that there were lots of different companies in the plastic cleat business for golf, but the truth is it was just Softspikes and Champ, which is Mcneal Engineering. Yeah. And to to this day, I think that's about, the two of them have got to be.
They cornered it.
Yeah, 95% of the business in the world. So.
Yeah. Okay, so LaserLink, and LaserLink is something that you still own and are running, correct?
That is correct.
Yeah.
And we, in a broader sense, we've renamed the parent company of LaserLink. We renamed it Golf Solutions.
Nice.
And what we've been doing in the last 5 years, we got the rule changed. We got a significant number of courses allowing and using laser rangefinders. We believe we sped up play. We think we added to the pleasure of the game. Who knows? A few people maybe hit better shots because they now know that their 5-iron that they tell people at a cocktail party goes 175, but when you're playing with me, it's okay to hit it 155.
Exactly.
And so I think the truth came in and people learned some things. So we felt quite good about that. But our mission and my team, our mission is to find golf solutions, things that are good for the game, that speed it up, like your efforts, Scott, a different way to look at the game and to try to change the game, maybe to save the game. The participation thing that we said at the top of this conversation, the numbers are disturbing about what's going on in participation. Young people are not connecting with the game. Avid golfers are dropping from 25 rounds a year down to 15. The 15-round guys are going to 8 because of time, because of money, because of the economy, difficulty of the game. You can name a whole number of things, but the fact of the matter is that the rounds played in the U.S. in the last probably 12 years have gone down about 1% a year. We used to have 500 million rounds of golf played a year, and now we're looking at 420 million. So
yeah, and you take $80 million and multiply that by
80 million rounds.
Take 80 million rounds and multiply that by $30. That's a quarter. That's $250 million just right there.
Enormous problem. In 1996, when Tiger Woods came on the scene, everybody was all excited about what was going to happen in golf, and I happened to be there. His first event was the Greater Milwaukee Open.
That's right.
That was September of 96.
He hit a hole-in-one.
He did, as a matter of fact. He also, interesting little sidebar, Scott, he weighed 156 pounds. So 6'2", 156, just kind of a skinny little kid. Yeah. But as we all recall, there was a lot of hype for what he was going to do for golf, and we were all quite optimistic. The fact of the matter is, Tiger Woods got millions and millions more people to watch golf. He essentially got nobody more to play golf.
Yeah.
It really didn't translate into recreational rounds played. And so, and that's where our efforts are. We're trying to stop the slide and to add, rounds, played, because some people who are really not that knowledgeable in the business, they say, well, there's too many golf courses. Well, that may be true because we kind of went on a kick of building. A tear of building a course a day for 10 years that we didn't need. But the fact of the matter is, when the total number of rounds continues to drop, it almost doesn't matter how many golf courses you have. Yeah. People are not playing. So back to Golf Solutions, we now are into a number of different things that we think will add to the recreational golf rounds played. That's what we're trying to do.
Do you know Bill Yates?
I do.
Okay,
I've known him a long time.
Yeah, I thought you might know him.
He's a pioneer in the pace of play business.
Yeah, and I'd love to have him on the podcast. Oh my gosh, because he's actually a former engineer, isn't he?
I believe he is. Some kind of technical background.
Yeah, he has a very technical background, and he kind of brought that over and kind of used that on his passion. But what is interesting to me, and you'd mentioned our efforts with speed golf and what we're trying to do, and our research, because this is what I spend a lot of time thinking about and researching as well. But The RNA over there has done surveys, and the results of those surveys have showed that players place more emphasis on a player-centric approach to solving the problem of pace of play. In other words, let's deal with the player themselves and say, hey, you need to play faster. But what we found is that over in America, there's almost almost like a fear of bringing the person into the equation and saying, listen, you're slow, you need to speed up. And so there's this idea that we need to there's all these other solutions which Bill has come up with, but even he mentions, he says, look, the number one problem with pace of play isn't the player. It's this, and then it's this, and then it's the player, and then there's four other things, making the fairways wider, cutting the rough down. From where we're coming from and what we've seen with speed golf, first-time speed golfers, people who play all the time, but in particular the first-time speed golfers, is that really the player-centric approach to solving the problem seems to be the most logical one. We just need to tell people to speed up, and instead of cutting 2.5 minutes off because we made the fairway wider or we cut the rough down, a person can speed up a minute a hole and save 20 minutes. So I'm kind of going on and on. I'd love to hear your response, but I mean, do you see what I'm saying?
I absolutely do, and I would say this. If Bill Yates was on right now, I think what he would say is the number one issue is course loading. That's putting 5 pounds of you-know-what in a 3-pound bag. Having 140 players for your charity scramble instead of 95 or whatever, a more sensible number. So over too many players is a big issue. But the individual, I would argue that the PGA Tour and television golf have taught people to play slow.
Yes.
There's no need for all of these, the pre-shot routines, all of this kind of stuff that you see on marking and cleaning golf balls 3 or 4 times in the process, which is outrageous. The continuous putting in amateur and in recreational golf is a great idea. This worrying about getting in each other's lines, a bunch of paranoia about footprints and that kind of stuff. I think the PGA Tour has taught people to play slow. That's one part of it. But player behavior, be ready when it's your turn to play.
Yes.
You don't start the kabuki dance when it's your, and anybody on a golf course that says, am I away, should be sent home immediately.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't ask. When in doubt, hit it.
That's a stroke penalty, sir.
Yeah, it should be. But I think we've made some progress. But some of the progress is a different way to make progress. Playing 9 holes, okay?
Love it.
That takes a whole lot less than 5 hours.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so legitimizing the 9-hole round, which the golf community is doing, making people, when you think about time and the speed of play, 2 hours, if you go to a movie with your wife, that's 2 hours. If you go to the gym, that's 2 hours. If you go to a nice restaurant for dinner, it's a couple of hours, okay? 5 hours is New York to London on British Airways.
There's only one other thing we do for 5 hours, and that's either sleep or work. There's just we don't have a lot of time for other things. So for golf to take 4.5 hours, and we talk about getting to the course and leaving the course. The whole thing is basically almost a work day.
Yep. If
you look at it. So cutting it down to those 2-hour chunks. But man, doesn't it seem like in today's world too, like even 2 hours? Even for the young millennials, even 2 hours might be a stretch in terms. It's a lot, So they're looking for the half hour, 1 hour type of thing. But let me ask you, because you guys are passionate about recreational play. So what are some of the new solutions that you guys have found that in the year 2016 you are marketing and supporting and wanting to see move throughout the industry?
You know about my passion for the size of the hole.
Yep.
Now this is a task. This is a mountain too high to climb to change golf the size of the hole.
Yeah.
But it's a funny thing about metrics in golf. In 1980, Dan Pohl led the PGA Tour in driving distance with 276-yard average, and last year Bubba averaged 314. Okay, so the size, golf courses in 1966, the Olympic Club was played the U.S. Open at 6,600 yards, and a couple of years ago at San Diego, I believe it was 7,600 yards.
Yes.
That is two 500-yard par fives longer than 40 years before. So there's certain numbers. We have green speeds that are 12 when they used to be 9.
Exactly.
So the numbers all change. We have people that can hit pitching wedges. The other day at the Players Championship, these guys are player after player stepping to the 17th hole, which is playing almost 150 yards, and they're hitting pitching wedge.
Yeah.
Gene Littler used to hit his pitching wedge 110 yards.
I remember being a kid at Lochinvar and, hitting a pitching wedge, 125 yards was a huge, awesome pitching wedge.
Yeah. So everything, all of the numbers have changed, but we circle back to the size of the hole, and that's like untouchable. That's like there's this, oh my gosh, you can't even bring up such a notion. Yeah. You and I talked about this recently, that the Squire, whose name always escapes me.
Gene Sarazen.
Gene Sarazen wrote an article in Time magazine in the 30s, in 1933. He wrote an article about that the hole was too small in relative to the playing field. We're talking about, 110-acre golf course and 120 acres, and you're talking about 4 1/4 inches 18 times. So it's outrageously small target for the game. And so anyway, I have we're not advocating that they build bigger holes everywhere, but on a recreational basis, we have developed a portable device that makes the hole play like 9 inches instead of 4.5. And so we've essentially doubled it, and it's for juniors, it's for beginners. It's like the bunny hill is to skiing. It's like T-ball is to baseball. It's like 8-foot basketball hoops is to to 6th grade kids. So it's just a way to introduce making the game easier, faster, and more fun, adding a little more positives and a little less negatives. And so I work on that. That's one project.
And what's that called?
That one is called the Big Cup. We call it the Hawker.
Hawker.
Hawker, and it's the name has not really stuck, but we're still early on it. But we felt that everybody knows what a ball hawker does. It catches the ball, and
yes.
So that was the idea on it. But we're still in the developmental stages of it, and it's a concept.
One of the person you didn't mention that was also a vocal advocate of larger holes was Ben Hogan.
That is correct.
And I'm not sure who else of his contemporaries might have been the same. Maybe he was all alone in that, but...
Well, Jack Nicklaus, a year ago, at Muirfield Village, rerouted he rerouted the golf course for 12 holes instead of 18. He moved the tees up to the front of everything. He said anybody who's out here more than 2 hours and 15 minutes gets a 2-stroke penalty. And they played Friday, Saturday, Sunday with 8-inch holes that they cut. Complete 8-inch holes. And the idea, Jack was later, I read a piece that he commented that some of the guys who founded the club with him are now 80 years old, okay, and they can't play the game the way we used to, they just did this. It was a wonderful success. Jack is much more open to participation things, maybe because of his architecture business and building 300 plus golf courses. But he has a much more open mind than, quite honestly, than the USGA, the R&A, or the PGA of America, in my opinion.
Well, come on, Jack Nicklaus is he's part of the DNA of our sport, especially American golf. He is, him and Tiger Woods, and then there's others. But I mean, it's Jack Nicklaus and then everybody else, and here he is, the greatest player of all time. I love to see that. I would love to see more golf courses But with your product, which is something that can be in a sense retrofitted, so that the superintendent isn't cutting an 8-inch hole and a 4.25-inch hole. Yours fits. You basically take the flagstick out. You stick your product over the hole and you put the flagstick back in, and now you've turned a 4.25-inch cup into a 9-inch cup, right?
And that's right. And it's an above ground hole,
yes.
Which you kind of have to see to understand. When you tell somebody that on the podcast or on the telephone, they can't quite envision it. But in time, they'll see what we're talking about.
Well, and if I can get an image, I could actually post a link to an image so that they can see it. Because when I first heard about it as well, I thought, how does that work? But then once I saw it, it makes complete and perfect sense. I saw a video with juniors putting into it, which we know juniors, the hardest thing for junior golfers is getting on the green and not six putting. It's just they don't have that fine motor skill yet. So to be able to aim at something this big was cool, because sometimes they hit it really hard. Like it would have gone maybe 6 or 8 feet past, but this thing really sucked it up and hawked it, like you said.
All right.
So that's super exciting. I look forward to staying in touch with that. What other products, if any?
Well, we have a partnership now with a Korean company that is doing GPS applications called Voice Caddy. It's a device that you could clip onto your hat, and you squeeze it, and it tells you from where you're standing to the middle of the green, the front of the green, or the back of the green. It's not as deadly accurate as laser for finding exactly where the flagstick is, but for many, many players out there, the front, the middle, the back is a good thing to know. Just hit it. You would say from your playing days, Scott, nothing wrong with just hitting it in the middle of every green. You can do pretty well if you landed it in the middle of every green.
Yeah. So, some of my best rounds were when I just said, you know what, I'm going to aim for the middle of the green. So I'm assuming if we're 150 yards out or whatever, I would walk up. I've got this thing on my belt loop. Is that right?
You can have it on your belt, or you can clip it on the bill of your hat. You squeeze it, and it's near your ear. Actually, on your hat is quite ingenious, because antennas do best when they're up on your hat rather than in your pocket or on your wrist. The watches have some interference issues because you're constantly moving and
putting them in your pockets.
All kinds of things.
Yeah.
So that you just squeeze this little device the size of a silver dollar on your hat, and this voice very quietly and low key near your ear says it's 174 yards to the middle, 161 to the front, 190 to the back.
I love that idea. So that's called the Voice Caddy, and then you've got another one.
We have another product made by the same company, which is a launch monitor. And launch monitors have really been the tools of the great players. They cost $10,000, $15,000, $20,000.
Like TrackMan.
Yeah, TrackMan's $25,000. Foresight and Flight Scope are all multiple $1,000 machines. Well, we have a $349 device that runs off of AAA batteries that measures your swing speed, your ball speed, and the mathematical relationship between the two, which is smash factor.
That's right.
And it's proving to be a great tool, and we are selling lots of them. This is really not for everybody, but for players who are intent on getting better, improving, hitting the ball farther and straighter. It's a great tool, and portable, the size of an iPhone.
It's like the size of an iPhone. Yeah, I've seen it, and that's huge for golfers who want to improve. Jacob Bowden is somebody else that we've had on the show, and he's also like a golf entrepreneur. He mainly has focused through Swingman Golf on swing speed training. So he teaches people different exercise drills that can help them work the right muscles so that they can swing faster, because there's so many benefits to having more club head speed.
Absolutely.
But he highly recommends those who want to improve on their swing speed, but also just improve their game, work on their swing speed. So he definitely recommends those little devices. But I got to get my hands on one of those too as well, because I'm now going to be turning 38 here next month, and my swing speeds are starting to drop. I feel like I'm playing better and swinging better than I ever have, But with age, the swing speed starts to come down, so I may need to work on that a little bit. When you look at it over the next, 20 years, 10 years, whatever, in the game of golf, I mean, based on what you know, are you positive? Are you bullish on the game? Do you think that there's going to be an innovative group of entrepreneurs that come along and kind of push the sport forward? Or do you have your reservations? I mean, I just read an article yesterday that came out where they were interviewing basically all of the executive directors of all the major golf associations. And of course, their responses were, people are negative about golf right now, but all of the factors and all of the data that we're getting indicates that golf is strong and vibrant and growing. And I know part of that's marketing, and I know part of that's probably not true, but what is your outlook on golf moving forward next decade or so?
Well, I think I hope that the traditionalists who are clinging on to the way golf used to be are going to retire. They're going to get old. They're going to head to the graveyard. And I hope this group of young entrepreneurial people who can look at the game for its great things, but can change the game to adopt to today's lifestyle. Golf was at one time a pastime for the rich. They had all the time and money that they needed so they could spend the day at the club, and those days are gone. It's a wonderful outdoor recreation. It's about family. I've told you about those 4 F's. It's about family, it's about fitness, it's about fun, and it's about fast. If we can get those 4 elements going, we can revitalize the game. I am forever the optimist about what the future holds. The game does have to change a little to adapt to times. People like fast pace. They like scoring. They like the game to give them more pleasure than heartache. And that's one of the things in golf. There's a lot of heartache involved. There's a lot of bad shots to get your way to the occasional good shot that keeps you coming back.
It is. And what I've discovered in playing the spectrum of speed, playing 18 holes in 45 minutes and playing 18 holes and, walking in 3 hours and 15 minutes. I mean, and everything in between, what I've discovered is that there's such an emphasis on score. Golf is so one-dimensional in its ability to bring you pleasure at the way that it's played right now, because it's all about what did I shoot? What was my score? And when you start bring in the factor of time and saying, let's go out and play an X amount of time, for some reason that just, it opens up new dimensions and new ways to enjoy the game. And so I just feel like there's so much more out there for the game of golf than let me go out and try to shoot the best score I can. I mean, let me go out and enjoy the scenery. There's a lot of pleasure in that. Probably more pleasure in just being outdoors if you can get in that frame of mind, than shooting a good score or shooting your handicap or whatever. So
my daughter, who is the mother of that little girl in the video you were talking about, is my granddaughter.
Yeah.
But my daughter and her friends, and these are women that are have careers and lives and little kids they're raising, they go out and they play 9 holes, and then they drink a few glasses of wine, and they hit and have nothing but fun. But on the scorecard, you know what they put down? They put down smiley faces or frowny
faces. I love it. That's a great score.
And at the end of the day, if you've got 12 smiles and 6 frownies, you've had a great day. Or if you've got 9 and 9. But the focus on score and low scores and posting medal scores, let's face it, you've been in that world, Scott. Most of us can't play and post a medal score. You just can't. And so you got to look at it in terms of individual shots that keep us coming back, or holes played, an occasional birdie, maybe making 6 or 8 pars. These are all wonderful things. I think the terminology of golf is problematic because we think a bogey's a bad thing when the fact of the matter is, when most of the U.S. male golfers can't break 100, a bogey's a good thing.
A bogey's a par.
You got it. So our terminology's a little off.
Wow. Rob, I don't want to take you any longer. It's been an hour, but I feel like it just flew by, and I feel like we could literally talk all day, and we've had other conversations. So it's just been such a pleasure and an honor to get to know you, and now to be able to share your story with all of the listeners. It's so inspiring, and that's what this show is around for. Is there is a lot of media out there that is talking about golf and kind of putting a negative a negative light on it, which, look, we've just talked about. There are issues in golf, but we're out there. There's people out there that are trying to solve these problems. And that's what's so exciting, and that's what we're trying to do on this podcast. So having you on was such an honor. Thank you for coming on. I have a question for you for our listeners. If they want to, kind of follow what you're doing, is there any place online that they can do that, social media-wise?
We do. We have a Facebook at LaserLink Golf, a Facebook page, and our website is www.laserlinkgolf.com.
Okay.
And I appreciate the time you spent with me, Scott, and I also appreciate your efforts, because we're gonna hand the future of golf to those of you who are 38 years old and with wives and kids and all of that kind of stuff.
Yep.
I have to say, those of us who are in our 60s now, we may not have done a great job. So the torch is going to pass to the next generation to save this great game and to grow it again. That's
so awesome. And also, if our listeners are interested in purchasing some of your products, one of the things that I would love it if you'd be willing to do, we can put a little link up on our website. And perhaps there's a way to put in like some sort of discount code, like Pace of Change or something like that. Where,
absolutely, we can do that, and you and I will work that out. But it's VoiceCaddy.com is our company that we are the U.S. distributor for on the GPS and the launch monitors, and laserlinkgolf.com.
Great.
And I think that's a great idea. You and I can put that together, and we'll cook up a little deal for your podcast listeners.
That is awesome. Well, we'll definitely do that. Thanks again, Robin. Would you come back on the podcast sometime in the future? Let's just keep talking.
Anytime, Scott. I enjoyed it.
Okay, Rob. Have a great day.
Bye now.
All right, everybody. Episode 21 in the books. That was awesome. And I am even more pumped about the future of golf than I was before I talked to Rob O'Loughlin. I hope you enjoy that. Remember, check out our show notes at paceofchange.com. There we've got lots of really helpful links underneath each one of the episodes. And not only that, on our website, I want to remind you that we do have an entire section of product offerings at listener discounts from a lot of the innovators that we've had on this show. So be sure to check that out, paceofchange.com. Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoy our weekly podcast with thought leaders, pioneers, and game changers in the golf industry. Rob O'Loughlin being a prime example of somebody like that. But like he said, remember, the future of golf is going to be passed on to those of us who are the next generation coming up. So you play a role in bringing golf into the 21st century. You do that by listening. You do that by subscribing, liking, sharing our podcast with others. Those are some real simple ways you can do that. Every action you take makes a bigger difference than you can imagine. So thank you. We always want to thank you for taking the time to do that. How else can we serve you, the listener? What other topics would you like to hear about? Who in the world of golf would you like us to interview? Leave your comments on social media and know that we value your feedback. All right, guys, until next week, pick up the pace. We'll talk to you then.